Goat in the Garden, Coach. So Brandon, my son, went to Fremont and absolutely loved going to Fremont. He went to North Ogden Junior High. It was horrible. I went to North Ogden Junior High. It was even horrible than when Brandon went to North Ogden Junior High. A lot of knucklehead people up there sometimes, especially when I was a kid. But anyway, he had a bad experience. He was going to go to Weber. We sent him to Fremont. So anyway, I'm talking to Coach Story one day. He was my wrestling partner in Coach Story. Coach's dad was my wrestling companion at Weber High School. But anyway, Coach Story was telling me one day the funniest thing that had happened. So some of the boys out at Fremont did not did not like Coach. He was a big, tall, kind of an arrogant guy. They did not like him at all. He was kind of a jerk. But he taught them at junior high. Now, junior high, Coach they didn't like, and so when they got to high school, they really got agitated with him, and they thought, we're going to go back and pay that guy back. We can't stand that guy. So the way Coach Story tells it to me, they went out to his house. Now, Coach, I understand, lives out in someplace like that. They went out to his house, and he had a couple lights on his front porch. So they took a BB gun and shot the lights out on his front porch. Pissed him off. He came to school. He didn't know who did it. He was mad. He was trying to find out who had done this, right? Who had shot out his lights on his porch. This is probably, like I say, 20 years ago, something like that. Anyway, they didn't like him, and so they were bored one other summer evening, and they were out biking, and they were driving around. They saw this goat, and this goat was chained up to a fence, and it was out eating the weeds right along the fence line. And they got this funny idea. Hey, Coach has this beautiful, gorgeous garden that he just takes care of. He just loves this garden, and he takes all kinds of care in this garden that he has planted. So anyway, they got this goat and this chain that the goat was chained to. They took it off the fence. They put the goat in the back of the truck, and they took the goat out to Fremont. I'm sorry, out to Coach's house, and they took that goat and they took a big stake and they staked a stake into the middle of Coach's garden, and they tied the chain with the goat on Coach onto that post in the middle of Coach's garden, and then they left. And that goat walked around and ate that entire garden that night. And of course, when he's walking around with the chain, he's just mowing down the weeds. But that was the funniest thing, because they totally destroyed Coach garden, destroyed it. The goat in the garden just destroyed Coach garden. Anyway, he was livid. He came to junior high because he was coaching at junior high, and he was absolutely livid that they had done that. He wanted to find out who it was, and he never found out. To this day, I don't think that he even knows who did it. I can't remember who the kids were. I never even really knew them. But anyway, Story told me that he was trying to find out for a long, long time who destroyed his garden and had planted that goat. I thought it was such a funny story that I saw Jay Shoup, one of my wrestling buddies and football buddies from high school. Jay Shoup was a strong guy. His family were the Shoups in North Ogden that were the blacksmiths, and they were powerful, strong people. Even to this day, he's got to be 58 or 57, and he's still extremely strong, like Randy Couture, the MMA wrestler. Very strong individual, very tough. But anyway, I saw his dad, Wright. He's a bald guy, totally bald, kind of like me, but even balder. He's beautifully bald. But anyway, I saw him at a track meet at high school one time, and I told him the story about the Fremont boys, how they had tied chained up the goat in the Coach garden, and he laughed and laughed and laughed at that. And I said, knock it. And he said, and then Coach come walking by, and he goes, hey Coach, I understand. Tell me about the story about the goats in the garden. And he goes, you've been talking to Story, haven't you? And it was funny. He got kind of mad, but Shoup thought that was the funniest darn story. And then I saw Coach in the market one time at the store over in Bellevue. I says, hey Coach, tell me about the goat in the garden story. That was funny. That was the funniest dang story I've ever heard. And he got mad. He goes, you've been talking the story, haven't you? And it was the funniest dang story. I love it. That's one of my favorite stories. So, going back to abusive coaches, maybe if they have a garden, you can find a goat.